Hello there, reason people, PoohBear here, and welcome to my channel. And today we're going to have a look at my go-to LFO, which just happens to be called Little LFO. And this is actually a free rack extension. In the first part of this video, we're actually going to be having a look at some of the controls, more importantly, the controls which make me want to use this LFO. And the second part, we'll actually look at using this to do some modulation and actually to create some sounds with. So Little LFO has 4 LFOs. They're all identical. So we're only going to concentrate on one to start with, and you would learn the other 3 as well. What I'm going to actually do to start with is just turn it on. So straight away you can actually see the signal. So I've got this wired up to this scope. There's 15 different wave types, and I should have a thing of that. Whoops, where is it? There we go. And you've got your box standard sort of wave types over this side, a few interesting ones. And the noise ones I've used a lot, and obviously in a recent video I did, I was using the noise to create like hi-hats and some snares and things. But yeah, you might be looking at this and thinking, well, there's actually only 15 shapes. Well, what's quite key about this is the fact that the pulse width on this particular device, most pulse widths on devices will only ever affect the square, whereas the pulse width on this device will actually affect all the waveforms. So that means we get a lot more shapes out of Little LFO than what you're actually seeing from them original 15. If you think about it, every single percentage, there's 1500 shapes you can go for straight away just out of the box. And in fact, we can get a lot more than that as well when we start getting into the modulation and the syncing of other LFOs with it. So that pulse width to me is quite semi-unique. The fact that it will actually do all shapes. Got a box standard phase, so we can obviously move the phase where it's going to start. Obviously we've got the amplitude, so we can actually change the amplitude. And most of the time with this, when you use an LFO, say wired up to a device, you actually use the trim pot on the back. Well, you don't have to go, you can actually use this instead. We've got a keyboard sync. So this is another little feature I like. So this is really re-trigger, I suppose that's be the equivalent of. So you can actually re-trigger the LFO. So you can see when the LFO is going down, if I hit a key, I can restart it. And if I get it in a good place, you'll be able to see it quite clearly. And obviously if I hit the key again, and again, I'm just going to keep re-triggering it. So that is actually a quite a handy one. Down here, I'm going to start at the bottom. We've got a free running LFO, which is obviously box standard, but what's big difference is this goes from 0.001, yeah, so that's around about 16.6 minutes, and it goes up to incredible 4096 hertz as well. So it's got a massive range on this particular LFO, which I think is absolutely brilliant. We've also got tempo sync, and this tempo sync has 24 different positions you've got to choose from, and there's this keyboard mode as well, which is absolutely brilliant. So I can actually hit a key on my keyboard and I'm actually going to choose the frequency what we're actually going to be playing. So if I was to hit A3, I'm now got a frequency of 440 hertz playing. So that again is a real nice key feature. So as I say, the re-trigger, the fact that the pulse width is affecting all the shapes, and that little keyboard mode's nice. And obviously on the free, you've got this absolutely massive range as well, which I think is absolutely brilliant. What we can also do on the front is we've got this modulation mode. So if I click on sync, it's going to take this LFO, or in fact, it will take the LFO which is live. So if none of them are live, this LFO here will actually loop itself back round. So you're going to find some controls won't have the effect you would expect. But have a play around with that because it can do some good experiments. But obviously here, if I was to turn this one on, so let's pick a shape, something like a down ramp or something, and I'll turn this on. So whenever this down ramp now is going to reset, so let's get it going because it's on 0 to start with, it's going to reset this LFO over here. So if I bring it down slightly to make it slightly longer, you get some slightly different shapes. There we go. It's gone into a nice little pattern there. So that's what I mean by you're not just stuck with your box standard 15 shapes. We've got 15 shapes, then we've got obviously the pulse width, and now we can start syncing it and start playing around with this sort of stuff. and the modulation. So if I was to put the frequency up, when that ramps up the top, it's going to make the frequency go faster. And in fact, shall we sort of turn it on a bit and see if we can start seeing things? And as it comes down, and I expect if we slow this down a bit, it might be easier to see. The frequency will actually get slower. Let's take that sync off as well. So the frequency, as you can see, has got slower, then it's gone fast, and it's slowly slowing down. And obviously you can do that. You've got the amplitude as well, so we can obviously affect the amplitude as the amplitude comes down, as this drops down. And if I was to turn that all the way up, you'll actually see much more of an effect going on. So it actually should come all the way back down to the 0 line. So there we go. So we're slowing down the frequency and we're collapsing the amplitude. And obviously there's nothing stopping you of doing this the opposite way around. So as the amplitude goes down, we can make the frequencies go faster and faster and faster. And you can do that obviously with the phase as well. Now you may notice there's no option to modulate the pulse width, but again, that's nothing to worry about because we can simply do that on the back side. So there's nothing stopping me taking a signal out of here, put it into the pulse width, and we can actually modulate the pulse width. So we've got our standard bipolar signals coming out of Little LFO, but we've also got this nice little one over here, which is tied up to an envelope. I haven't spoken about the envelope here. So here we've got ourselves an envelope. So now when I hold myself down a key, we can see the envelope growing, and I let go of the key. Let me just hold that. So there's the attack, there's the decay, there's the sustain, and that's the release. And that's actually quite a nice little feature, but a better feature, I think, from these back ports is the fact that we've actually got a unipolar out, which is actually really unusual, because usually we'll go from a bipolar and we're going to something like to janitor and we'll offset it and we'll scale it down, but we've got this right out the box. And obviously everything what you're seeing in the bipolar mode will work in the unipolar as well. And there's also the envelope one as well. So if I was to hold down the key, we've got ourselves the envelope. Another real nice feature obviously is the audio out. So we can actually send this all on audio out. We can send it also audio out with the envelope. We've got this all keys mode. This all keys mode, these audios out work in any mode the LFO's in. So it's in keyboard tempo or free. Whereas the all keys has to be in keyboard only. So if you want to use the all keys, it's going to be keyboard only. And the fact is you can also obviously turn these on, and with using the amp, you can actually merge your different shapes to go out of that all keys. So that's actually a really nice feature. If not, you can obviously take these out, and using something like the morphing, you can actually morph them together and do what you want with them. This is, it's having this unipolar is really nice. Having the envelopes, these are real nice little features. Other little things on this particular keyboard on this device is we've obviously got a gate and note data coming in, so we can use another CV device to run it. The fact that my keyboard has actually got the MIDI focus on this, so it can actually play it directly, and then we can take the gate and the note out. So even if I haven't got a gate note plugged into here, this will actually output whatever MIDI's coming in, which is handy. We can send the envelope directly out as well. So if we're not using the LFO, the envelopes with the LFOs, we can just use the envelope on its own. Again, real nice little feature. So it's got quite a few things bundled up in one simple little box. And all these little things is the real reason why I really love this as my little LFO and my go-to LFO. So let's actually do a couple of little things with this. And I need to hit that key there. I think, yeah, I go small. So over here, very simple. In my mini modular series, might have been part 5 where I've done a sound effect. So we're actually using Little LFO. We've got ourselves a down ramp. That down ramp is going to be affecting the pan on this particular device. The frequency is also coming out, and I'm actually using a knob to actually change the frequency here. And this frequency here is actually going to affect the pitch of the frequency of this sine wave, and the sine wave is what we're hearing. So this is the down ramp at the moment, which is coming from here, and we get this kind of sort of sound effects with it. nice and straightforward. As I say, what we're going to do is we're going to build something up, and what we're going to actually start building up is what's going to be part of my generative project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off just for a second. I'm going to actually not have to worry about the sync. I'm going to have it in free mode, and I'm actually going to use a noise to start with, so I'm going to want something random. So let's actually take an output for that. And I'm going to take an output of this and put it into here so we can see everything what's going on for that one as well. So I'm going to use this as my note data, and I'm going to put it quite low. And in fact, I don't want it in bipolar, I want unipolar. So I'm just going to quickly switch it down to there. And on this one here, because I'm going to use this as gate data, I'm going to have this as a square. I pump that near up to 99%. Now, the faster you have this, you may want to bring that pulse width down. And by the way, with a noise and the pulse width, if you was using a tempo sync, you'd want to either push it all the way down or push it all the way up. If not, you end up with having multiple signals per tempo. So by pushing it up and down, you just get the one. So I'm going to use this as my gate, and I'm going to use this data, which is coming out randomly, as my note. Now, I want to get these in sync, and yes, I could put this on tempo and that on tempo, and I could push my pulse width up, and then when I change this frequency over here, so I'm just going to have that on tempo sync, say every 2 bars, I'm going to have that changing. We then would have to adjust this one and vice versa. So what I'm actually going to do instead is I'm actually going to put I'm going to hold that data using my simple little sample and hold trick I do. So I'm going to take the gate. In fact, I'm going to take this one up here, and I'm going to actually control this AB switch, and then I'm going to take the note data that's going to go into A, and then I'm going to use that when we build something over here. In fact, let's actually build something over here. So what I'm going to want is my little LFO. There we go. I've got myself a little LFO. I'm actually going to combine that up. I'm then going to take my note data and put my note data in. I'm then going to take my gate data, and this is where things are going to start getting a little bit noisy. So I'm just going to make sure that's turned down. And I'm going to take some gate data, which I can take from here. I will admit, a lot of the time over here, I use the CVAs because they have multiple outs. So you can use them as like a bit of a splitter. We've actually got something, but you're not going to be able to hear it really because it's actually going to be playing it really low down. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to transpose then that data up. I'm going to use a setting to start with. Let's push that up a bit. So we're going to start getting higher notes. I'm now going to use myself a scales and chords. Then obviously we can adjust what's really happening with that a bit more. Now, this may look a little bit weird. Already in my head, I know I'm going to be taking this data and taking it somewhere else. So I'm going to put a MIDI CV converter in there to do that in a second. Then I'm going to take another scales and chords and put it in. And let's just choose something there, just make them the same. So this one's actually going to start playing some chords. And what I'm going to do now is put an arpeggiator on this. And I'm going to, again, put another note view on, and I'm going to take this up a few more. It doesn't matter if you do it above or below. I'm going to actually put this above. Let's shut that up. Now, the proper way of turning this off is obviously we turn off the gate, so the gate data is no longer coming through. So that's one way. That's the only way we can sort of control what's going on with this. I'm just going to mute it just for the second and leave that running because I'm going to want to use it in a second, because I'm going to put wire myself up another MIDI and put that on top of. And yet I'm quite lazy in the way I do this, so I'm going to have that output going into this input. I can just drag that across and I don't have to worry about scrolling around all the time. I must admit, I do find it a little bit awkward using these screens because I'm so used to using a 4K screen. Yeah, it does make it a little bit harder. So I'm going to have another little LFO over here, and I'm also going to have myself, I'm going to put myself a nice little filter underneath it, and we're going to have this data going above it, so we're going to drive that going into that. Let's see what we've got. Let's see how it's wired itself up. It's looking good. I'm going to take this envelope data to control my filter with. So I'm going to use the envelope from there to control this filter. And what I'm also going to do, I'm going to take my note data out and put it into the filter as well, because this has a lovely way of controlling. It's got note key tracking on it, the filter, which is something I like. And I'm also going to take some of the LFO data from two different ones to control the frequency and the resonance on that. First things first, let's actually see what we've got going on, see if we get something. I'm going to go, I talked about the F16 before. I love the F16. You've got loads of different modes. You can obviously put this in. Note all the way up. I have the envelope all the way up. And what we're also going to do on this, I'm going to actually build myself a little sequence, but obviously the sequence is going to be controlled by the MIDI coming in, or that is going to be using the note, the key note, to drive that sequence. Let's put something in here. And I don't know, let's just throw something in here. I don't know what I'm doing. Probably going to play around with it a little bit later. So actually, let's do something a bit more of these sort of shapes. Bring in another shape, shall we? And we should be getting some of the note data coming across. And oh, I've got to turn it on here, don't I? Keyboard mode. Hey, we're getting something now. And I'm just doing this just to give it a little bit of movement. And that's going to be, so we're going to use this sort of principle as the start of my generative project, and I think we should go and actually have a look at that and see how it all hangs together.